So in today's demo, I'm going to show kind of what we did with our African American monuments, taking our code, making a map, and then making a function that we can then reuse and have a little bit of flexibility too. So the first thing I want to do, here's my CSV, is do my imports. Import pandas as PD, import Folium, because we're going to need to make a map, import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. Make it in our data frame is equal to pd.read underscore CSV, and our CSV link is here, and df.head to see that table. And down here in the green, while we wait for that to load, down here in the green is kind of the skeleton for how to make a map. All right, so our table came in. That looks great. So in our map, it says start with making a Folium map. To make a map, m is equal to folium.map. Do something. All right. And we'll talk about what needs to go in there in a little bit. Then I have where to make my outer loop. And for our outer loop, we're going to go through the unique of a particular column. For I in the data frame, let's pick a column. We'll do state. Actually, you know what? For consistency's sake, I'm just going to do it in brackets. A state, and give me the unique values in that state. So we'll go through every unique in the column state. And if I did that just now, print I, and I'm going to comment the rest of this out for a second and run it, and I should see all of the different state codes. Great. If I wanted to sort this, because again, this is being listed as unique, so it goes row by row. Is this new? Print it. Else, go to the next one, all the way through. If I say sorted, it's going to get that list, sort it by unique, and then alphabetize it. So that's going to be helpful down the road. So then it says, create a feature group. How do I make a feature group? FG is equal to folium.feature group. Yep, and what does a feature group have? Feature group has a name. In our case, we're just going to use that iterator as our feature group. These are already there, so I'm going to replace where it says call name with my df of state. So df.state, how many unique names are there? You can kind of see just roughly, it's probably 15. Put it in there, all right? So that becomes the hex code. Hex code changes the color. So now what I want to do is I want to make a filter data frame. Filter df is equal to df where the df state is equal to my iterator. Great. So I filtered it down. Now I want to make a loop to go through this filter df. And since I already have an I, I'm going to say for j in range, the length of my filter data frame. Okay, so that did that. Now I want to go through and make markers. So folium.circle marker, and I want to take that circle marker and add it to the feature group. Then add the feature group, add to my map. Then I want to add a folium.layer control. Add that to my map too. And then I want to print out the map. And because we're about to do this in functions, I'm going to say, normally we just say m. We're going to see something here in a second. That's okay. We haven't had a location here for I in range, valid syntax, j, for j in range, valid, the filter data frame, bracket, bracket, close bracket. All right, and that says I need to do some locations to plot out my circle marker, and that makes sense. We don't have a locations here. We also don't have a locations in our map. Okay, because we're going to eventually do this in a function, I'm going to put a display around the word or the character m. Great. So now I got some location. Location is an xy. So location, in our case, is almost always df.latitude mean, comma, df.longitude mean. And same idea for some of this down here, right? So now I want to go through my location down here is equal to, except I'm going to say instead of df, I need to use this filtered df. So where the state is equal to that letter, show the plot of this latitude dot iloc, in our case, because of the inner loop is a j, comma, same thing, but longitude. All right, add it to my map, and we can see we've got some points. Yay. And I can see if I look at my toggles, I've already got my toggles. So those are there. I just need to say layer control collapsed equals false. Show them inherently, show those up. I want to change my zoom. So one of our parameters is zoom start. Say 5. So we see the US, we see this. Great. Now we're looking at how do I make this circle marker better, right? Because the circle marker right now is just a circle at a location. Maybe I can say color is equal to, and we already have a name of that color, color name. And let's do comma radius is equal to, let's say 15. Let's say fill color is equal to color name. Because again, color name is going through each of our arguments and coloring them based on that filter, iterate that loop through, right? So as I go through the loop, all right, now I want to add some, maybe a tooltip. Tooltip is equal to filter, but I don't want to do the iloc. Let's say I want to do tooltip is equal to not latitude. Let's call it the name of our, we can clean this up later, but that's going to give, when I hover over it, it'll at least tell me what is the name of that statue / honoree. Great. And again, you could make your tooltips super detailed and it would look really, really good. Okay, so let's look at this again. So go through my, create my map. This was already provided, starts a default for your hex code. I go through my outer loop, creating the outer loop to go through each unique state value. We looked at that print, right? So we could see that they were state codes. I create a feature group for the first time through. Can that loop say it was AK or whatever that might be, the first item becomes my feature group. It looks at the unique, that this just counts a raw number. What is that number of uniques? Dividing the color white by that is how many, what is my color step going to be? So that I get a variety of colors happening regardless of what the, how many long that list happens to be. Then go through the list, plotting those filtered points, right? Plot them at the location, show me the tooltip, show me the size, show me the color, all of that. Add it to the feature group, add that feature group to the layer, to the map. Add a control, display it. Great. So now what I want to do is I'm going to indent some of these things to make them line up where we are. And what I want to do now is I want to give it some ability to be flexible, right? So to do that, again, my concept's always cookies or pizza. You're making a recipe. This is the sequence to do this thing, but it's not always going to be the same pizza toppings. It's not always add pepperoni. It's add toppings at this point. So what do you want your toppings to be? It's always going to be the same process, right? So in our case, what do? They create maps. And what do I want? It's going to take a specific column of data, and then everything in here gets indented. Because that is part of the, this is the instructions, this is the recipe to make my map. Now I want to call the map. Create map. And right now I can use the same, right now we just use state. I'll use that as my same code, right? So when I run this, it should create the exact same map we already had. Because it's the same exact sequence. There's no, column is not included in it anywhere. Right? So it's just run through these steps, which we already know makes the map, and as a result, it's going to make that exact map. So now the question is, how do I get column? Where does that go? It goes everywhere that state was. Okay, so now state gets plugged into column, column gets plugged into where it was column. It should make the exact same map. Yep. But now I have this line. This is my, what page is the cookie recipe on? And then what is the parameter that you're wanting to change? So now when I come down here, I can just say, show me just the region in US. I think it's actually region of US. That's a column in my data frame, and that shows me different topics This is the Midwest. These are the Northeast. And I see that as I toggle through, it looked for the uniques in that list and only showed me values in that unique. So maybe I also want it to be, historical period. Sorts those. These are times where these statues represent the Civil War or pre-Civil War, whatever that might be. And you can see that those are that. Again, your tooltip, if you adjust your template, just in the same way, if I want to change the recipe, I change it on the recipe, change the temperature of the oven or whatever that might be. How long do the cookies take to cook? Like I change it in the recipe, and every time going forward, it's changed. I'm not having to change that every single time. And I'm not redefining, I'm just calling it when I'm ready to call it with a different topping. So maybe it's the pizza. Now I'm making it with pepperonis. Now I'm making it with olives. Maybe I'm making it with whatever. Or I'm making my, the template of cookies, and now I'm going to make it with butterscotch. Now I'm going to make it with chocolate chips. I'm going to make it with pecans, whatever that might be. So this is that code, and it makes a map. So you should have at least two maps. Again, this code is all it takes. Change out the column you're wanting to represent. Just the name would show all of the different values sorted by the name of the things, all 40 whatever there are in our data set. Yep, and that should be good. So that's the code to get there. If any of this doesn't make total sense, or you say, I want to make my tooltip really exhaustive and make some really interesting comments in my tooltip, a lot of it's in the data frame, right? So you might as well post some more of this information in your tooltip so the user can interact with it. Obviously, this is where that could be really powerful as a tool to inform people. All right. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.